So this is a follow-up on the social justice video blog. Dr. Barris McGee had given me a question and asked if I could explore that a little bit more in my blog. And the question that she had asked was, I wonder if you'd share your experience of when you realized the difference between putting the client's needs first, just based on the clinical issue, and actually putting the client's needs first within the context of that person's cultural identities. And I'm not exactly sure when that occurred to me or how long it's been because I've been in this field very long time. But I will give a more recent example. I work with um, within a lot of the Chinese population, and within the Chinese population, they do not really consider mental health as something to be talked about or to be dealt with. It's seen more of a weakness in a way. So generally, the population or those that are coming in for services with me are usually the ones either they've been evaluated down at the emergency room and then they're brought, uh, they've been deemed at risk, but not enough to go in the hospital or coming out of the hospital. So you see these clients in person, even with everything going on with the pandemic, because it's considered high risk. But with this population, they are very deep in multi generations living in one house, as well as being very connected to their families back in China. And one of the connections that they have with their families back in China is a lot of herbs and a lot of more homeopathic type of remedies. And the clients that come into us, and I will talk specifically about a young woman. She's about 35. She was about 35 years old, had never been in mental health treatment before, has been in the United States for a few years, only has like a seventh grade education. And she had come actually out of the hospital. And she came out of the hospital, and family immediately took her off her medication because it's something that they felt they could treat homeopathically. So I have this young woman in front of me who's obviously very much struggling and very depressed. And I am now in this struggle with myself in terms of, do I push this young woman to take psychotropic meds, knowing that it's very much against her family, her customs, and her culture, knowing that most likely her family would be very upset with her? Or do I pursue the other avenue, and that is talk to her about her culture, talk about the limits they have and the ideas they have with mental health and psychotropic medication and what scares her about taking it and so forth. So um, I did this, and if and it's generally the path that I have to take with a lot of my Chinese, the population I work with that are Chinese. But over time, over the last, it's been about 2 months now, she's still not on psychotropic medication, just because, but I've had to bring other family members in, and we've talked about progress with them and their anxiety with meds and how the idea is that the family in China will look down on her family if she's in mental health treatment and so forth. So that is a major struggle that I face, and it's not necessarily with just the Chinese population. That's just an example, but it tends to happen with other populations as well and other cultures where Native Americans as well. We have a population of them as well. That it's a struggle, and I have to just put myself aside in my need to want to, help this client and know that by taking antidepressants, she could feel significantly better fast, but understand that her culture and who her generational families are and how they would perceive her may cause her more harm if she was on the medication. So really finding a balancing act, and um, but in the end, our clients come first. Now, obviously, if she deteriorated any further, then she'd have to be hospitalized, and then of course things would change in a way there too. But however, she's been stable. She has improving. I think just having someone to talk to has helped. But um, yeah, it's a balance. Truly sometimes it's an emotional struggle, and one that you need a lot of consultation with your supervisors and other clinical staff to really make sure that I'm meeting that client's needs the best I can within that client's culture and their identity, and understand that client knows themselves better than anybody else and knows what they're going through better than anybody else. And just being there for the client and supporting them. But once again, our clients are always first. I got to keep my personal feelings aside. I have to set them aside. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't say to her from time to time, say something like, my experience is that those that do take medication do feel some improvements. But I also back that up by saying, however, you know yourself better than anybody. You know your family better than anybody. You know what would make yourself emotionally and physically stable. And if that's taking a psychotropic med and that will not happen, then we're not going to prescribe that med. So, um, but I mean, it's a fascinating area to get into in terms of homeopathic medication and how clients see it, and and all that kind of stuff. But I'm sure most of you guys will be involved in that, where you have a client that prefer, herbal stuff over medication, and you will also be in that, whether it's their culture or whether it's just their personal preference. But it would be one that it can be an emotional struggle for sure. So hopefully that answered the question. Thank you.